So we are coming off of what just might have been the best and most entertaining UFC card of 2025. And I figured, man, I got to come on here and make one of these videos where I talk about the fights I would like to see following UFC 320, because this card was absolutely loaded. And not only was it loaded, but it absolutely delivered. We saw some outstanding performances, and I think that we are primed for some very big fights next, and also some big opportunities for fighters that are looking up for that next step up in competition in their careers. Let's hop straight away into it, man. The first fight, we got to talk about Alex Pereira, man, because we got a big fight going down at UFC 321, the next pay-per-view here, and that is Tom Aspinall defending his title against Ciryl Gane. Now, I know you might say, whoa, why is Poatan going to heavyweight? He should stay at 205. He should defend the title against Jiri or Carlos Ulberg or whatever your thoughts are on that. But Poatan has been very vocal, and he said to Dana White, look, man, I want to go to heavyweight. And given what Poatan just did by going out there, coming back in a rematch against a guy you lost to, and completely dusting him in round number one where it wasn't even remotely competitive, that to me warrants a big move next. You could feel the different energy in the UFC world right now. Now that Poatan has his belt back in, when you go out there and do something like that and put a statement on kind of a rivalry, you could say, with Magomed Ankalaev, I feel like a big opportunity is ahead for Poatan Pereira for a couple reasons. One, because he's a massive star and he got his title back. But also, we know the UFC and the Paramount deal, right? We got that White House card kind of hanging in the balance. And how entertaining would it be at the White House, main event, Poatan Pereira versus, presumably, I think Aspinall beats Gane. We would have Poatan Pereira versus Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title. Poatan going up, trying to win a third title, man. I mean, this guy, to me, is already a top 5 fighter of all time, so that reminds me I got to probably make a GOAT list at some point here coming up, a new one at least. And listen, it's an amazing fight. It's an amazing fight, dude. This guy, his power, I've always said Poatan's power can translate regardless of the weight class, starting at middleweight, which it was crazy that he was there to begin with in the UFC because of how massive he was, then light heavyweight, now up to heavyweight to take on Tom Aspinall. None of the matchups really intrigue me at light heavyweight. Like, I know you could say Carlos Ulberg. What are you going to run it back with Jiri? He knocked out Jiri twice, right? I don't want to see that again. I don't want to see Jiri get knocked out again. That's hard, man. Jiri's became a massive fan favorite. We got to protect Jiri, right? The Ulberg fight, sure, it's intriguing. Maybe they look to go that direction. Ulberg's not a big name. You mean to tell me that they're going to keep Pereira around when they got this big deal with Paramount and, we could be going to the White House and you can have one of the biggest stars, one of the most beloved fighters in the UFC right now, move up and take on a guy like Tom Aspinall? Sign me up, man. It would be an amazing fight, super intriguing. And listen, if Ciryl Gane, look, because everyone's talking about Tom Aspinall like this fight's already done. Like, they're like Aspinall versus Pereira. I almost said Pereira because of Chelsea. That stuck in my head. But listen, Tom Aspinall versus Poatan, that is a super intriguing fight, but people are overlooking Gane. Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to pick Gane to win this fight, but it feels like so many people are so in on Aspinall winning. We see what happens, man. That curse is real, dog. The curse is real, so you never know. And you can't tell me that Ciryl Gane versus Alex Pereira would not be a super amazing stylistic matchup. To me, that might even be a more fun stylistic fight, considering Gane is a kind of a back and forth tit for tat type of striker, to where that would be kind of fun watching him and Pereira go at it. But we all know Aspinall versus Pereira, man, what a massive fight that would be, especially if Tom can go out there and run over Ciryl Gane, because we all know that everyone's going to be sitting there, especially John Jones, waiting to see how Aspinall handles Gane, considering Jones dismantled him very, very quickly in round number one. But for Poatan next, going out there and doing what he did to Ankalaev, we see that a dialed in 100% Poatan that is completely locked in. He's just a different dude in the UFC. I think that him versus Tom Aspinall, that is a massive fight and incredibly intriguing as well. I know Chimaev wants to fight Pereira, but to be real, I think we see Pereira go to heavyweight. He said he wants to do it. And when you go out there and do big things, the UFC tends to reward you for you backing up what you're saying you're going to do. So I could see something big on the horizon. And don't tell me you're not interested in Aspinall versus Pereira. That's an amazing fight. And even if Gane wins, I know maybe not the same, but hey, Gane still is a big name in the heavyweight division. And considering his style, I think that would be a fun one. So let's send Pereira up to heavyweight. And that's where things are going to get interesting. But if he stays at light heavyweight, do the Carlos Ulberg matchup. I don't want to see Jiri lose again. Next, we have Magomed Ankalaev, right? He's coming off of a loss here to Poatan. And look, I got to be real, man. You guys know that I like Pereira. I like Magomed Ankalaev. I didn't expect him to get dusted like that, man. And I'm sorry, but when you go in there, I know that he put on an impressive performance. He won the very first fight. He outstruck Pereira, all those things. When you go out there and you get completely ran over in a not even competitive rematch, I don't know how you could get the trilogy, right? It's not like you were a long reigning champion, even though Magomed had this crazy long win streak and he does have a striking based style. The UFC, they're not very high on Ankalaev, man, in case you can't tell, right? So I don't think that they're going to do him any favors following that fight. And we already saw Glover Teixeira. He's like, nah, man, we're not doing the rematch. And to be real, after that, I don't need to see a rematch. At least not right now, unless some crazy stuff happens, over the next few fights. Like, I'm not, a rematch doesn't intrigue me. I'm just being honest, right? So I feel like we got a couple options for Ankalaev, right? I couldn't nail this down to one here because Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev to me is super intriguing, right? Because they fought for the vacant title. It went to a draw, and a lot of people thought Ankalaev won. A lot of people thought Blachowicz won, and Jan was like, just give him the title, right? That's just the kind of dude that Jan Blachowicz is, just always a stand-up guy. And look, Jan's older, but he's still hanging with the young guns. He went out there, and you could have made an argument that he beat Carlos Ulberg. And this is crazy, how nobody really talks about this. I mentioned this before. Jan Blachowicz, a draw with Ankalaev, arguably could have beat Poatan Pereira, and then also goes out there and arguably could have beaten Carlos Ulberg, man. This guy's going out there and hanging with some of the best guys at the top of the weight class who people say are the best. So despite being 40-some years of age, Jan Blachowicz has that style to where he could fight till he's 150, man. Like, he just kind of moseys forward, licks his tongue, legendary Polish power, and just does his thing, right? So him versus Ankalaev, let's run it back. Right, let's run it back. Let's get some clarity because it ended in a draw. But at the same time, maybe the UFC is like, well, he technically lost to Carlos Ulberg, so we're not going to give him a step up here. And listen, that's why I have Khalil Rountree here. And I know people, how are you going to say Rountree, man? Jan Blachowicz should get it over Ankalaev instead of Rountree. That's why I have another option here because people really kind of just shit all over Khalil Rountree. I'm not quite sure why. I know he's, kind of an interesting guy. But when we talk about showing up in the octagon over his past few fights, this is a guy that stepped in there with zero fear against Alex Pereira and won rounds in there. Took it to him, right? Went out there and completely dominated Jamal Hill over the course of 25 minutes. Destroyed him. Completely outclassed him. And then he goes in there against Jiri Prochazka, is arguably up 1-1 or 2-0 heading into round 3 before he kind of slowed down and then got knocked out by Jiri. Zero fear from Khalil Rountree in there. He's going after some of the most entertaining and dangerous guys in the light heavyweight division. So I'm taking that into consideration. I know people might say he shouldn't keep getting these top 5 guys, but when you're going out there and you have a fun style and you're not backing down from anyone and you're going out there and getting after these dangerous dudes, I feel like that warrants some big-time respect, man. So I got Rountree's name in the hat here, right? Because Ankalaev, right? Jiri, he's not probably going to get the Jiri fight. I don't think. Maybe they look to do that, right? Probably not going to be Ulberg because Ulberg should be fighting for a title. I feel like these are two feasible matchups. Jan Blachowicz, they got history. It ended in a draw. It's an interesting fight because of the leg kicks of Jan, right? Can Ankalaev solve that problem? Pereira gave him problems. Took a page out of Blachowicz's playbook, the way he attacked Ankalaev with the rear kicks to the inside of the leg there. Run these, man. I like the Blachowicz one a little bit more, but like I said, given how Khalil has been kind of showing up in these fights and against these dangerous guys, I feel like he deserves some respect in terms of getting a top guy. And listen, the UFC, like I said, I feel like, given what Khalil's been doing, they find him to be an entertaining fighter. I could see them looking to punish Ankalaev by giving him a guy that is coming off of, what has Khalil won? One out of his last 2, despite being, in some entertaining fights. And then given that Jan technically is off of an Ulberg loss, I still think that would be interesting to run that one back, given that it ended in a draw. Okay. Now we have Merab Dvalishvili. To me, look, I'm just going to be honest. I said it in the recap. I'm not super excited about this fight. I'm not, and I'm not going to pretend to be, okay? I'm just not. Like, I honestly, I think that the winner of Umar versus Mario Bautista, which I know a lot of people feel Umar's going to win that fight, as do I, and that is the rematch that everybody wants to see. That is probably the best fight in the bantamweight division, and if Mario could go out there and pull it off against Umar, well, he now inserts himself into the title conversation. He's on a crazy win streak, all those kinds of things. But also that Patchy Mix win. I mean, yeah, it was still a win and it was good because people felt that Patchy Mix was good and he was coming over, and I picked Mario to go out there and kind of school him. And that's what happened, and Patchy Mix is coming off of a loss. Now, granted, I thought he won, but either way, it was a close fight against a guy making his debut, right? So that win, I feel like, has lost a little bit of stock here. And Petr Yan, it's more about what Yan has done to the point of he has absolutely earned a title shot, man. He has been out there rattling off these wins, and he's just a guy that, look, he got dominated by Merab the first time. It was 50-45, and given the style of Yan, I just really don't see what would be different, man. I just don't. And I know that Yan went out there and he put on a nice performance against Song. He did what he did against Figueiredo. It was a masterclass. Then he goes out there against Marcus McGee, and he didn't have to take that fight, right? He wanted to stay active, wanted a matchup. I think it was the Umar fight. So they were like, look, the best we could do is give you this guy, Marcus McGee, who's a pretty fun fighter. And that was a fun fight. Right, but Yan still showed up, made it happen, didn't sit on the sidelines. He's on a nice win streak here. He's absolutely earned a title shot. But like I said, it doesn't excite me because I don't want to see Merab dominate this guy again, man. And people are like delusional. They're like, well, rematches, you never know. And I get it. We saw Pereira go out there and do that to Ankalaev. But come on, man. Like, Yan literally got dominated 50-45. He's not knocking people out. That is the sad reality. As much as we all love Yan, he's not really this KO artist that people make him out to be. He just isn't. He's this like wizard in there, this guy that kind of dictates the pace. He's got all these fancy techniques. He's a super technical and skilled fighter to watch. We all know that. And he's a fan favorite for a reason. I love Yan. But I don't want to see him go out there and get dominated and controlled and beaten up by Merab, man. And now that Merab has evolved and his striking is even better, it just concerns me because Yan, he needs to be in the pocket for his attacks to work. That thrives in terms of Merab being able to get to his hips, take him down. Yan's kind of squared up with kind of that Thai, like long boxing stance, kind of blends it well together. It's just a disaster, man. Merab has his number. Again, you never know. Yan has earned it. Give him the title shot. But I'm just not super excited for it. But either way, this is the fight that should happen next because Yan has absolutely earned an opportunity. Okay, next here we got Cory Sandhagen versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Okay, look, I know people are going to say, well, O'Malley, he's technically high, what is he, the number one guy, number two, whatever he is ranked-wise. He's coming off of back-to-back losses to Merab, right? He lost the first fight. It was kind of close in moments, but Merab definitely won the fight. So then O'Malley comes back, gets an immediate rematch after Merab goes out there and defends against Umar. They throw O'Malley right back into a rematch, and we knew that they were going to do that, right? And there were no questions about who was the better fighter because Merab absolutely destroyed Sean O'Malley in the rematch. And he got that Dana White privilege. He didn't have to go out there and do some extra work to go out there and get the rematch, even though I know it was closer than what people might make it out to be. The bottom line is you got an undeserved kind of rematch there if you're Sean O'Malley. So I think that you should fight Cory Sandhagen. Cory Sandhagen is a guy that has been game to fight everybody. He's pretty much been a UFC Fight Night headliner guy over the past few fights. Gets the big title opportunity against Merab, and he put up a pretty good fight against Merab, even though at the end of the day on the scorecard, still got dominated. It didn't look like, it was dominant, but there were moments for Cory, right? He was getting up from the takedowns. He was landing some shots. He almost got KO'd in the second round, which is crazy. But book this fight, man. These are two of the longer, rangier guys in this weight class. This is a fight that we wanted to see before. Stop messing around, UFC. Book this damn fight. Like, I don't understand what the holdup is here. O'Malley needs a big win. Right? What are you going to have O'Malley fight someone back in the rankings, a middle-ranked guy who, Cory's a name. I know he's not a big star, but he's a name and a lot of people like him. Book this fight, man. Stylistically, it's interesting. O'Malley's got more power. Right, they're two really good strikers. Cory may have an edge on the ground. Book this fight. It's super intriguing. Whether it's a 5-round Fight Night main event, a 5-round co-main event on a pay-per-view, I don't care. Book this damn fight next, man, because if we keep messing around, I just feel like this is one of those fights that is super intriguing that just will never end up happening. Now is the time. Cory's coming off of a loss. O'Malley's coming off of 2. Stop giving O'Malley all these undeserved opportunities, man. I was excited again, to see Cory get the title shot. We all knew he was going to lose to Merab. Book this fight. It's a fun, stylistic matchup. Next, Jiri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg. Now, this is kind of dependent upon the idea that I think that Poatan will be rewarded for going up to the heavyweight division. So, again, if Poatan stays, Ulberg, I think, gets the title shot. And then I don't really know kind of what happens with Jiri. Maybe he fights Ankalaev if he wants to stay busy, or he kind of just waits in the wings, or I don't know. But I feel like a number one contender fight / if Poatan basically just pulled an OG move saying, I'm going to win my belt back with them, peace. I'm heading up to heavyweight and I'm heading out. We've seen the UFC make champions vacate their titles whenever they move up. So I could see this being a true number one contender fight, even though Ulberg has earned it. But again, Yuri's fought really good competition, and he's coming off of back-to-back wins. Starts, Jamal Hill, then goes out there and starches Khalil Rountree. And everybody loves Jiri. He's a much bigger name, a much bigger star than Carlos Ulberg. And Jiri, he could be right there for getting the title shot as well, but the holdup is he's already lost to Poatan twice. That's the real holdup here, because if the champion was, say it was still Ankalaev, we'd have a real war for who the hell's getting the title shot, because both of these guys have put themselves in a position. Ulberg on a crazy win streak, not super, popular, when it comes to the fans. Jiri has all the fans on his side. So the bottom line is this could be for a vacant title. And I know that you could say, well, Ankalaev's name should be in the hat because he's the former champion and all those kinds of things. But given these guys, man, Jiri has been balling. His only losses are to Poatan. Everybody else he's beating. And Carlos Ulberg's been on a crazy win streak. Just brutally KO'd Dominic Reyes in his first Fight Night main event. So that was incredibly impressive, right? He skated by Jan Blachowicz, right? I can't believe we haven't seen Jiri versus Jan. That'd be a fun fight. I don't think we're getting it at this point, but I like this matchup, man. I like this matchup. Stylistically, it's interesting. Yes, Ulberg's earned a title shot. You could justify Jiri getting I shouldn't say justify, but he's also earned one as well. You can make an argument for both. But it's just the fact that if Poatan stays, Ulberg has never fought him before. So that's kind of the area that we're in. But I'm assuming off of this, Poatan moves up to heavyweight. This could be a vacant light heavyweight title or a number one contender fight, and then Poatan can come back. I don't know. I like this matchup either way stylistically. Super intriguing. Ulberg's a technical, counter striker, a little bit cleaner. But Jiri, he's got some nasty combinations, man. He's aggressive. He wills his way to victory. Even when he's losing fights, finds ways to get it done. We all love Jiri Prochazka. He's super entertaining. Fan favorite versus a surging contender, a guy that is right there to get a title shot. I like this matchup, man. So again, this is going to kind of depend on what Poatan does next. So I could see this being a number one contender fight or it being a shot or a fight for the vacant title, because at the end of the day, Ulberg, he's been rattling him off, but look how many guys had to kind of get the runaround from the UFC. Ankalaev, Bilal Muhammad, Merab, right? These guys put on these crazy long win streaks before they get a title shot. So Ulberg, he might end up in that situation if it goes off of my video here. Okay, next, we got Youssef Zalal versus Arnold Allen. After that performance against the Bills quarterback, Josh Emmett. After that performance against Josh Emmett, where Youssef Zalal, I thought was going to go out there, just utilize his speed, be Mr. Speedy Gonzalez, stick and move, and point his way to a decision victory to where people were going to complain about it. I wouldn't complain because I like the way this guy fights. I love what he did to Calvin Kattar in terms of the footwork, the movement, the timing, the rhythm. He has earned a top challenge in this weight class. He absolutely has, man. When you go out there and look, Josh Emmett's been losing to some of the top guys. He didn't get finished by Ilia Topuria. He didn't get finished by Lerone Murphy. Right, he was in there against some super dangerous guys, man. And the fact that Youssef Zalal went out there, shot a blast double on him, took him down like it was nothing, and Josh Emmett's a strong guy, man. He's got a good wrestling base, power. And Zalal didn't even care. Took him down, got right to his back, and was able to submit this guy. Put him in a position where it looked like he was basically going to get a triangle or armbar, pick your poison, Josh Emmett. That's what happened. Youssef Zalal has earned a top guy, man. And Arnold Allen's kind of in no man's land, right? He lost in an entertaining fight to Evloev. He's kind of just sitting in this spot, right? He lost to Holloway. He's coming off of a Giga Chikadze win. So, he technically fought back. This would be fighting back again. But just given where the division is at the top, I mean, Diego Lopez, I could see him fighting Yair. Volk fighting either Mobsar or Lerone Murphy. So I don't know that Arnold is going to get one of those guys. I feel like a guy who's just going to be outside the top five here, as well as Allen is Youssef Zalal. This is a fun stylistic matchup. Allen is underrated. He's got good striking, a solid ground game, good movement. Him versus the speed of a well-rounded, resurged Youssef Zalal, who's came back into the UFC and absolutely been balling. He could do it all. He's fast. I love this matchup, man. Book this one. I like it. Next, we got Josh Emmett versus John Silva. Look, I know that this might seem cruel because Josh Emmett is coming off of a loss, right? And he's been literally fighting what seems like murderer's row of the featherweight division at this point. He got the interim title fight, lost to Yair, Ilia, Lerone Murphy, Youssef Zalal. But given where they are in the rankings, him and John Silva are right near each other. And the UFC tried to kind of catapult John Silva, goes out there, gets knocked out by Diego Lopez. I know that John Silva wants to fight Yair Rodriguez. you shouldn't be fighting another top guy in the weight class right now. You got your opportunity. It did not go your way. Now I think that you should fight a guy that has a ton of experience, is a dangerous fighter in this weight class despite being older. And I think that he should fight, it's not a guy that's behind him in the rankings, but someone that's slightly ahead of him, but not far. He shouldn't be getting a top 5 guy at this point. You lost to Diego Lopez. You had your shot. You need to go out there and get back in the win column. I think him versus Josh Emmett is a fun fight, man, especially the fact that, look, Jean Silva's got crazy power. Right now, his aura is kind of dampened because he got finished by Diego Lopez. And we know Josh Emmett's durable. We saw him go a hard 5 with a crazy power hitter in Ilia Topuria. We saw him just get submitted, by Yusuf Zalal. But outside of that, I mean, Josh Emmett, he's shown that he's tough and he's got crazy power. This would be a fun fight, man. I know that, it seems cruel because Emmett's older and it's like, man, just give him a layup, give him a bone here. But we know the UFC doesn't roll like that. I like Jean Silva. Take it a step back in terms of, this ain't Diego Lopez. And step back in the rankings for Emmett. But we all know that Jean Silva is still a very dangerous fighter. I think that this is intriguing. So, yeah, Silva needs a step back from fighting a guy in the top 5 after you did not cash in on that opportunity. I think that this is a banger matchup, man. Next, Joe Pyfer versus Jared Cannonier. Look. Joe Pyfer's only loss in the UFC was a 5-round Apex main event against Jack Hermansson, which I say it all the time, it was such a disastrous decision by the UFC because whenever you take these young guys, especially when they're very explosive and they have the adrenaline dump and they kind of gas themselves out, they're used to getting all these KOs, it's just kind of a recipe for a nightmare when you're against these, these savvy veterans, especially a guy like Jack Hermansson in hindsight, because if you don't get that early KO, we know a guy like Jack is going to kind of dance and sailor move his way to finding a decision, and that's what he did. That's exactly what he did. And I thought Pyfer would get his ass out of there, and it didn't happen. Right, but that was a learning opportunity for Joe Pyfer. He's been rattling off crazy wins since. He's been knocking people out, goes out there and beats Abus Magomedov and submits him in the second round. That was a big win because Abus Magomedov, I've said it before, if he had a gas tank, I mean, he's easily a top 10 talent in the middleweight division. So when you go out there, you rattle off these wins. Joe Pyfer, yeah, I know he's driving, he's the director of Salt Mines Enterprise, and he's driving the salt trucks around. Right? Look, he's still fun, man. He's fun. He's a finisher. He's an exciting guy. Dropped Kelvin Gastelum left and right. So, look, he needs to fight a top 10 to 15 guy now at this point. And I feel like the perfect opponent is a guy by the name of Jared Cannonier. I know it's harsh because Cannonier's been fighting, all these killers. RoboCop, he got a one-off weird matchup with MVP, which was kind of built for MVP to bust into the middleweight rankings. This is interesting, though, because Cannonier's got power. Right? And he's got a solid ground game, so I don't think that Pyfer could just take him down, right? And Joe kind of just spams these overhand rights, and I feel like this is a test. Even though Cannonier's older, we've seen he's got power. We've seen, he gets rocked, but it's kind of hard to, flush KO Jared Cannonier. It's kind of an accumulation, right? He took a beating from Kyle Bahalio, but if you make this like a 5-round, Apex main event, I don't know, they're making a 3-round fight on a pay-per-view. I think that this is a good fight, man. I think it's a good fight. It's a real test for Joe Pyfer. He's earned another name, in this division that is in the rankings. Test him with a veteran guy in Jared Cannonier. I think Pyfer would get this one done. Make it a 3-rounder. I like this fight here. Let's get this one on the books. Next, Abus Magomedov coming off of a loss to Joe Pyfer. And look, I feel like he should fight Shara Bullet. He should fight Shara Magomedov. Listen, the UFC's been doing a great job kind of cherry-picking these matchups for Shara Bullet, and I get it. Look, he fights over in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, the whole thing with the eyes, so I think he has trouble with the, the commissions and whatever's going on there. So he tends to be on a schedule where he fights basically twice a year whenever the cards are over there. So I feel like Shara Bullet should fight Abus. Listen, he's been fed all of these favorable matchups, right? And as as entertaining as it's been, because it's fun to watch Shara go out there and just kickbox. He's got, a super dynamic style. I want to see him tested. Because at some point he's going to have to be tested. And you could say, well, he got tested in his last fight against Marc-Andre Barriou, right? Which that's not a good look. But here's the thing, and you might say this is a cruel matchup because Abus is way better. He's got the ground edge and all this and that. We've seen Abus's cardio problems. So, yeah, he might come out there and try to strike with Shara, which in that case would be entertaining. But say he does level change. Say he does take Shara down. As long as Shara can stay safe and not get submitted, he has a real shot to come on strong in round 2 and 3, right? Presuming that this would be a 3-round fight. I think that this is a banger. Abus is in fun fights, right? Even against Bruno Ferreira, things weren't, that was a crazy firefight with Bruno. He was facing adversity, came out in round 2, got a submission. So Abus has rattled off some nice wins, man. Beat a guy like Michel Pereira. I know that that's not as great of a win now because Michel Pereira's been kind of fading away. This is a fun fight. Char's been given these cherry-pick matchups. As fun as it is to watch him go out there and do his thing, I think that this is it's a hard fight, but it's also winnable given the fact that Abus gasses. So I feel like he needs to be tested at some point. He needs to be, right? He's right on the cusp of fighting into the rankings. And Abus, now they lost to Pyfer, he's like that guy. He's right in that position. And he's a test. He's a well-rounded guy. We need to see Char fight a well-rounded guy, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong because the UFC is just going to keep giving him, striking-based guys, right? Apollo Costa, maybe something like that. That'd be fun. I think that this is a fun challenge here because, like I said, if Char can survive the ground, assuming that Abus would look to take the fight there, I think that things could be pretty good for him in the later rounds, considering how Abus slows down. Time to test Char, in my opinion. All right, we got Ateba Gautier versus Kelvin Gastelum. Look, I know that people might say this is too much too soon. Look, we want to slow build Ateba. He's a dangerous prospect, right? Everyone's looking at this guy as the next Francis Ngannou, who's built like a freak, man, a brick shithouse, whatever you want to say. He's yoked out of his mind. He's super dangerous. Super dangerous. But what I think is even scarier about this guy is, he's physically strong, but he doesn't just throw and hope and fire with these big, powerful shots because he's a big, powerful guy. He smartly sets up his combinations, man. He is picking and choosing his shots in there and setting these things up. And I think that that's incredibly dangerous. On top of him already being super powerful, we saw him go out there against, right, he was supposed to fight Ozzy Diaz, which was a layup, and then he got even more of a layup because Diaz pulled out. So they kind of just found some guy off the street, and they said, here's whatever the hell his name was. We all knew that Gautier was going to KO him in round 1. And the way he shucked off that takedown with just pure aura and strength, that was crazy, man. And Kelvin Gastelum's a guy who's been tubby. He's out here missing weight. He's out here, and if this was almost anybody else, they would have been cut from the roster. We've seen guys miss weight like a Brian Battle. They will cut you from the damn roster. That prospect of whatever his name was, he was supposed to fight Patricio Pitbull. Didn't they part ways with him because he missed weight? So the fact that Kelvin Gastelum, he's been in some crazy fights, man. The fight with Izzy, right? He's a super skilled fighter. He's been around for a while. He's a big name at the end of the day in this weight class, even though he's not like a top guy at this point. And I do think that he's a little over the hill. We know Gastelum's durable. And I want to see, listen, you keep missing weight, it's time to punish you. And I want to see, can Ateba Gautier's power knock this guy out? You can't tell me that this isn't intriguing. Gastelum, who is known for crazy durability, and this guy who is literally looked at as the next Ngannou, but just at middleweight. Dude, I would be so intrigued to see, because we saw Pyfer land some of those big bombs on him and couldn't get him out of there, even though he was dropping them. What happens when Gautier gets to this guy? I feel like he might be the first guy that can knock out Kelvin Gastelum. But then there's that side of, well, Gastelum can wrestle a little bit. He's got some sneaky power. I don't think there's much to worry about here other than the fact that Gautier would beat the hell out of him and then get tired, and Gastelum would sneak his way back into the fight. Even though Kelvin's skilled, he's a little over the hill, I would love to see Gautier's power versus the chin of Kelvin Gastelum. He's missed weight too many times. Make the fatty pay, dog. Give him Gautier. All right. Last but not least, we have Farid Basharat versus Marcus McGee. Now, I thought about, maybe a Basharat versus Jean Matsumoto, an Adrian Yanez, a Rob Font, something like that. But I feel like that, I don't want to say it's disrespectful to Farid Basharat because, again, he hasn't fought anyone in the rankings. His, best win basically at this point. I mean, he's got some good wins, right? He's coming off of I think he beat Blackshear. Wasn't that who he beat? So that's impressive. Then he goes out there and beats Chris Gutierrez, right? Who's a feint spammer, leg kick spammer. Goes out there, puts it on him, right? We've seen Farid, he's well-rounded. Solid hands, sneaky little power. Not a ton of power, but does have some. He can throw those kicks from range. He's got a solid ground game, good submission ability. He's undefeated, man. He's undefeated. He's looking like a problem in this weight class. Give him Marcus McGee. I know Marcus McGee, I think, is ranked 15, or maybe he's not in the rankings at this point, depending on how things update. Look, Marcus McGee got a huge opportunity against Petr Yan because of his availability. He rattled off a couple nice wins. But I feel like now that you got that big opportunity and you didn't cash in, which nobody really thought that McGee was going to win that fight, still, let's give Basharat a big opportunity. I want to see him tested against a legit guy. And considering that McGee, when I looked at the UFC website, which I know that they take a while to update it, he was ranked 15. And I feel like what we've seen from Basharat in his career so far, I mean, this guy looks like someone that should be ranked in the top 10 to 15, so let's test him. Let's test him. I don't want to wait around anymore. You could give him a prospect, do a little prospect on prospect in Matsumoto. Matsumoto's more green than him. I think Farid beats him, right? You could go the Adrian Yanez route. I think you could take him down. It's an interesting fight as well. You got names out there like a Garbrandt or something. I like this fight. A guy in McGee who's shown that he's very game, has shown that he's not really top 10, but he's really kind of a 10 to 15 guy where I think Farid Basharat is at this point in time. Let's test an undefeated guy in Basharat. After going out there and dominating Chris Gutierrez, he's been rattling off some great wins. He's been in the UFC long enough now. I think that he has earned a big opportunity like this against a guy in Marcus McGee who was gifted a big opportunity against Petr Yan. So don't say that this is too crazy when McGee got gifted a shot against someone like Petr Yan. These are the fights that I would like to see following UFC 320. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think of these matchups down in the comments. And if you are new here, if you could subscribe it up, man, I would greatly appreciate it. See you next time.